Hey, what's happening, buddy? This is Haydn Adams with A Designer Who Codes. I've got some good news, but I have some bad news regarding the Gatsby background image. By default, the Gatsby background image no longer works in Gatsby version 3. That's because they've done away with the fixed in fluid in GraphQL, and Gatsby background image works with fixed in fluid. As I said before, there is also some good news. Gatsby created a bridge for us to use to bring in non-fixture fluid pictures into our Gatsby background image. Let's take a look how we can use Gatsby background image in Gatsby version 3. All right, so to get started, I'm going to use the Gatsby starter default in part because it already has the Gatsby plugin image already installed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this GitHub repo. And I'm going to copy it, come over here to my terminal. I'm going to say CD. I've got a Gatsby demo projects folder. This one's number 100, so I've started actually numbering the folders. Pretty awesome. I'm going to say Gatsby new, and I'm going to call this one 100 to keep track of my folder numbers. And I'm going to say Gatsby background image v3 for Gatsby version 3. And I'll paste in the GitHub repo. And like magic, it's going to start installing it. While that's going on, I'm going to go find that folder in a different screen. Should be somewhere. There it is. And I have it right here. The Gatsby 100 Gatsby background image version 3. So once this finishes installing, we have to get 2 more plugins because by default, it doesn't give me everything I possibly need. What I'm going to do is perfect. And also to make sure it did install properly, let's just go cd 100-Gatsby and background version 3, and we'll do a Gatsby develop. Whenever I first install things, I always want to make sure they install properly. So I'm going to do a Gatsby develop. This gives me one little extra checkbox. I can go, you know what? It's working fine. So far, so good. I think I'm looking pretty good here. Come on, building development bundle, you can do it. It's not that complicated. I think it can work. And let's take a look and see if it is. I'm gonna pull Chrome over here. Hi people, yep, everything's working good so far. So the next thing I wanna do is, I'm gonna go and grab 2 different plugins that I'm gonna use for this project. The first plugin I'm gonna bring in is our old friend, Mr. Gatsby Background Image. So I'm going to head over and do a Gatsby background image in Google search. And just like that, it pops up at the top. You can also find it at gatsbyjs.com/plugins/Gatsby background image. Yes, I said this doesn't work by default. We have to bring in one more extra component on top of this. In the meantime, I'm going to find, there it is, install, npm install, and we'll drop it in. And install this one. Now we did say, or that's like a royal we, I should say, I said before that there is a bridge. And we're looking for is the gbimage-bridge. So what I also need to bring in is this gbimage-bridge. And apparently it doesn't show up in Gatsby's plugin list yet. So we're gonna do, as I always like to do, head over to Google because it finds everything. So what I'm looking for is the gbimage-bridge. And in here, I can go to the npm.js or the GitHub area. So what this does is this allows us to create a bridge between the Gatsby version 2 and Gatsby version 3 while utilizing the Gatsby background image. So what I also have to do is I have to npm install save the gbimage-bridge as well. Drop that in, and like magic, maybe, cool, it installed. Let's do a Gatsby develop and make sure everything installed properly. So far, no errors, but also no success messages either. Whenever I like to install things, I always run a quick Gatsby develop just to make sure it installed properly. Otherwise, it's going to create headaches if I don't test as I go. So far, so good. Refresh the page. Awesome. So before we go too much further, I want to spend some time in GraphQL. I'm also going to bring in a picture that I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in this palm tree photo that I want to use for my background image. Now, whenever I start a project, especially want to go into GraphQL, because if I can't find it in GraphQL, then there's no way it's going to work inside of any of my code. I'm going to command click, and it apparently went to a different screen. So I'm going to bring over my GraphQL. There it is. You got a little trade secret. You got to see ahead of the curve. Let's go back a little further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for where it says file on the My Query section. And in here, by default, it would just pull up a random file, but I actually want to specify which file I want to use. So I'm going to go down to relative path, and I want it to equal the file name palmtree.jpg. If it can find it and not produce any error messages, I'm on the right track. So if I were to spell palm tree, I get this null, that means it can't find it. If we take one step back, the also reason why I utilized this plugin or this template is in the Gatsby config, it already set up for me, and let me bring Visual Studio Code over. If we look down here, the Gatsby source file system already points to the folder images. This is also why I really love this plugin, because it has a lot of things already pre-configured for me, which makes me code a little more efficiently and quicker. So I've got the Gatsby source file system, I have the images, and if we head back to GraphQL, and I do not spell the word palm tree wrong, well, the good news is we can see it. But let's take this a step further, and here's the magic of Gatsby version 3. What I'm looking for is the child image sharp, and here it is. Now you'll notice that it still has the fixed in fluid sitting right here. Ignore it. Do not touch the fixed in fluid. What I'm looking for is the Gatsby image data. Now by default, there's no arrow next to Gatsby image data. That's okay. I'm going to click it. Oh, and check this out. We got all these awesome options that we can choose from to work with this palm tree. So I'm going to do is, since this is going to be a background image, I want this width to be 2000. Oh, check it out. Now it automatically converts the file inside of GraphQL to a 2000 pixel in different sizes. Whoa, that's not what I wanted to see. That shows the pictures there. That's awesome. So perfect, we're looking really good. Now, since I am working with a background image, I do want to reduce the quality just a tad for it to load as fast as possible. So I'm going to head to quality and I'm going to say 50. What I'm also going to do is you can also work with WebP format options. And I want to bring the quality up a little higher since WebP can by default be a little smaller in file size. So I'm going to say quality 50 and then the WebP format at 70. And the great part about this is going to create both your JPEGs and the WebP format. How freaking awesome is this? And this is going to go into our background image. This is cool. I'm sorry to say cool and awesome so many times. But here's the great part. This is now working great in GraphQL. Now that we know it's working good in GraphQL, let's actually build a page and bring in this content. And just so we can see a little better, I'm gonna hit the return key just so I can see this on the screen a little more successfully. And we'll drop that down. It should not create any more problems. Cool, we're cooking with gas. So now we have GraphQL working great. Let's now utilize this content in a new file. So I'm going to hide, I'm in Safari, not Chrome. And what I'm going to do is inside my source folder, in my pages, I want to create a new file. So I'm going to come over to Visual Studio Code, close my Gatsby config, and file, new file, or Command N. From here, I'm going to make sure I'm in my source folder and my pages. And I'm going to call this one bgimage.js. So far, so good. Perfect. bgimage. Cool. Let's build this page up. So what I'm going to start with importing React, and we'll say import React from React. And the first thing I want to bring in is both the GraphQL and the useStatic query from Gatsby. So I'm going to say import. We'll keep this empty for a second. We'll hit a double space. I'm going to say from Gatsby. And the top one is Gatsby. The great part about this is it'll autocomplete both of these. So I can say GraphQL, comma, use static query, and it can auto-populate for me, just making me type just a little more efficiently and not misspelling, which I am very good at misspelling. I'm then going to bring import, and what we're going to do is I'll do the empty curly brackets, and we'll say from Gatsby plugin image. And in the Gatsby plugin image, I'm going to import the get image. There we go. Keep it going. I'm going to say import. Again, keep it empty. And I'm going to say from, and this is the gbimage-bridge. This is where all the magic happens for the Gatsby image bridge to take into account. Inside of here, I'm going to say convert to BG image. This is going to take that fixed and fluid and turn it into the non-fixture fluid which you just experienced in GraphQL. All right, buckle your seatbelts. Here we go. I'm going to say const, and in here I will say GBI bridged, and I'll say equals, and we'll do our open and close parentheses. We'll say equals, greater than symbol, curly brackets, open and closed. And from here, I'm going to do is I have to bring in my static query. So I'm going to say const, and in here, I'm going to write something unique here because this will help you down the road, follow the rabbit hole down below. I'm going to say background image 123. And in here, I'll say equals, use static query, open and close my parentheses. And in here, we're going to say GraphQL and add our backtick marks. Perfect. Drop it down. And we'll actually bring in our query. Here's the cool part. We've already written the query. So if we head back to our query, I can grab this file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste. But I'm going to write one more piece on top of this. I'm going to say in this GraphQL query, curly brackets, I'm going to say background image 123. Now here is where I get to paste it in, drop it in, and like magic, we know this works because it already was tested inside of GraphQL. Make this so it lines back up successfully, and I can take out the ID as that was just accessory piece. But what I really want to make sure is I have the background image 123, child image sharp, and Gatsby image data with the extra options down below. So far, so good. And also I realized that I had a little extra alignment out of alignment here. So I'm just making sure this one's aligned. This is looking good. So I just want to extra indent the query. Perfect. It looks a little haphazard how that one and this one is out of alignment, but it is stepping in the right direction with these. So far, so good. Awesome. So after I have my alignment all in alignment, I'm going to say const image equals get image. What am I going to get? I'm going to get that background image 123. Only reason why I added the 123 is it's easy to see here to here to here has to line up. If it doesn't, craziness and error messages will ensue. I'm then going to say const and then say bg image equals convert to bg image. We're going to pull the content from here to here to here. Perfect. Now I'm going to do is I can then say return, add my open and close parentheses, and continue on and actually now bring in, oh, I actually forgot something. I forgot to bring in the background image. So at the top, I just realized something. The convert to BG image is 1/2. I'm going to say import background image. I totally forgot the last import from, and this one's going to be the Gatsby background image. So I have to bring in the background image piece as well. Ooh, almost messed that one up. So let's now bring in our old friend, Mr. Gatsby background image by saying background image. And in here, I'm going to open and close. We'll just say the word test for right now. But in the first background image, I'm going to add a couple things. I'm going to add a tag is going to be section. And after that, I'm going to bring in the curly brackets, bring in our favorite 3 dots, but then bring in BG image. I'm going to use this one right here. So if you follow it down below, background image 1, 2, 3, const image, image, background image, and all of that comes down to the background image, the tag section, and the background image. And they recommend, per Gatsby's rules that I write, preserve stacking content as well. If we save this, we're going to get an error message because I actually haven't exported this project yet. So at the very bottom, what I have to do, oh, I just forgot. Where did my curly brackets go? Oh, that's what it was. My curly bracket is not sitting in the right section. I should have put it down here. That was my error. And one more piece I have to do is export default and make sure I spell this properly, gbimage-bridged. If I save, hopefully I got it right. That was my error again. So what I should do to make it proper is I should indent these as well. So yes, the curly bracket should fit at the very bottom. That was the first error that I made. And I forgot to export the default GBI-bridged. If I save it, those green words of success make it sound like it's probably going to work. Nothing error messaging here. So let's take a look. We go and grab the BG image. And BG image, it is there. You can kind of see it. So we can't quite see the background image because we actually haven't expanded out of the CSS. The Gatsby background image fits the size of the child. So in this case, the word test is just 1 line. So all we have is this picture across. But let's do a little extra cleanup because my rule is less code, less problems. So in this background image, I want to do a couple extra things right here. Instead of saying const image get image background image, I'm going to change this. I'm actually going to take this out. This is all going to go away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out, and instead I'm going to say const C-O-N-S-T plugin image. And I'm going to say equals get image. And we're going to bring in that placeholder, which was our background image 1, 2, 3. Again, the only reason why I use the 1, 2, 3 is it's easy to see where it is versus saying background, 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 and background. So this plugin image I'm going to use. So down below, instead of saying background image, I'm going to take this out. And I'm now going to say BG image, a new one. So that BG image is now going to come at the top. So the GB image bridge, I'm going to change from convert to BG image to BG, where is it? There it is, BG image. That's why I didn't auto-populate below. I was out of step. Now I'll say BG image and operate the same way just about as the background image. So background image, I'm going to say image equals, and we're going to say plugin image. And in here, I'm going to close it up and we'll say test. And so far, oh, just because we didn't use it. So we've now taken out the background image. Long live background image. You were fantastic. So if we come back up and then just comment that out and save, so far, so good. Ah, magic. We have no error messages. Golf clap here. We have it working, but I really want it to really work. So I'm going to head into some CSS and make this fit full screen. I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to say custom.css. And I like to add my CSS in its own CSS folder. So we'll say custom CSS. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to my layout. And if we head to components and we head to the layout.js, not the layout CSS. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say import, and we'll go out of that components folder into the CSS and into custom. And if you've watched any of my projects before, I like to add a body color just to make sure that it is connected. I will say body color purple, drop it in, and like magic. Oh, I just said color purple. That's actually working because the color purple shows up on the word test. What I wanted to do was background color purple. And there it is. So either way, it worked fine. Perfect. So what I want to do is first take out this body. So I don't need to have that any longer. I'm going to create a new class called masthead. So I'm going to say masthead up top. And in here, I'm going to set the width to 100%. So it makes sure it fills the space. And I'm going to say min height. I'm going to say 100 vertical height or V8. This is going to pull the picture to the bottom of the browser, which is the vertical height. Let's save this and see how it works. So the masthead background image. If we come down to gbimage, I'm going to say class name, masthead. And there it goes. Needed a little refresh. And just like that, the picture now fits behind the word test. Let's make this word test look a little spiffier than just the word test. So I'm going to say H1. This is the BG image. Save. That's looking good, but let's move it to the middle of the page. So under custom CSS, I'm also going to add some flex. I'm going to say display flex. And in here, I'm going to justify the content to center. And then I'll say align items to center. And I'm going to add some padding. We'll add some 3 rem because when it goes to mobile, I don't want the text to hit the immediate edges of the page. I'm then going to say masthead H1, and we'll say text align center because I do want the text to move to the middle when it goes to mobile. And then we'll say color white, and we'll say text shadow to give it a little extra kick. And we'll say 3px, 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 RGBA, 0, 0, 0, and we'll add a 0.5 for that color. And now, like magic, we have this is the BG image sitting on this picture using the Gatsby formerly background image in Gatsby version 3.